So this is a premiere. This is like the first online reading of perhaps what I think one of the truly great Christmas stories. I read this story at a reader event a few nights ago, and it went over a storm. It's a story that's full of tension and comedy and unbelievable relief, and it's probably the most Christmassy of Christmas stories. And it's written by the genius that is Richard Craven, who it started life as a tweet. And then, do you want to take us through what happened, Richie?
Yeah, I guess it started as a series of tweets during lockdown, because I was the first year of lockdown, and we were coming up to Christmas, and I had a bottle of wine, and I was feeling a bit bleak about everything. So I decided to write a story or tell a story about something that had happened in a previous Christmas. And then I went to bed, and I was like, I'll probably delete that tomorrow because it's way too long for anyone to read or care about. And then I woke up the next day, and the world had gone mad. There was it had gotten a lot of response. I'm quite an anxious person, so I don't know if you wake up and you've gotten like 10,000 messages on Twitter and your girlfriend is ringing you because apparently you've been on the radio. Like, your first instinct isn't that something good has happened. You're like,
Yeah.
oh dear, what's going on? But yeah, it got a huge reaction. Like way beyond what I would expect, beyond even Ireland. My dad is politely baffled by the whole thing.
Does he argue against the veracity of the story? Does he say, I never did that?
He believes that I exaggerate and that he's not like that. To which I didn't lick it off a stone. And like, I have corroboration. Like, he tried saying that at the last Christmas, and 4 generations of his family kind of said that no, that's exactly what you're like. So if he wants to refute it, he can start a Twitter thread of his own. I will say, sorry, you said that this is the first online reading. Some people on the Europeans podcast did do a reading that year with, I think, Dara O'Shea, who's also another funny Irish.
Lots of other people have read it, but I don't think we've seen the author.
This is the first time I'll be reading it, and I think we're going to find out why.
It was on the backlisted Christmas special as well, like, so it's been around.
Yeah, well, look, people are going like, oh, make it a short, make a movie. It's like, I will sell out so quickly. Just come into my DMs with.
I would make a great short film. Anyway. Look, we've talked too much. For people who haven't heard it, should we read it? Has it got a title? Have you got a title?
I don't. I
think it should be called There's Christmases and There's M&S Christmases.
Yes, that's a perfect title. I wanted a kind of David Bowie, like a fireplace snowman vibe, but you have the bleakest. You have an iPad and the bleakest office that's available to me. So I'll get started.
Okay, I'll take myself off.
The most stressed out I've ever been about Christmas was when I was 16 and I got my first ever job, working at Marks and Spencer's in Dundrum. As soon as I started, I kept hearing these myths about the Christmas Eve waste sale, where all the food that wasn't sold on the 24th was marked down 90%. Everyone I worked with told me it wasn't worth getting anything in beforehand because there was so much left that you could get your whole Christmas meal after the shop had shut on the 24th. My dad and I argued for weeks about it, going back and forth on whether to get a turkey beforehand. Eventually, we decided we were going to risk it. I was working until closing on Christmas Eve anyway, so my dad said we might as well give it a go. Before I went to work that day, he asked me, just try and get a turkey, no matter what happens. It was the most stressed I've ever been working in retail, which is saying something. I worked in home and gifts, so every chance I got, I would sneak over the foods and see how busy it was, how many turkeys are left. It was so busy, I was convinced there'd be nothing left. Eventually, closing time rolls around and all the staff clock out and wait for the sale to start. Now comes my next heart attack. I thought it was whoever was working Christmas Eve that was able to go, but the entire workforce has trickled in since closing and is now waiting. I was 16 years old and I feel like my family's entire Christmas is riding on me. I swear to myself that no matter what happens, I'm going to come out of this with at least a turkey, no matter who I have to bludgeon to do it, even if it means not having a job on the 26th. The main foods manager comes out and ceremonially announces that we can go in, and I stick my head down and charge. I don't go quite as far as to trample anyone, but I can't say I wouldn't have done it if it had come to it. I'm convinced it's going to be an all-out brawl, and it's like something out of a Harry Potter Christmas scene or the end of Fantastic Mr. Fox. There is so much food. Everyone there could have taken 2 turkeys and there still would have been some left. This was Christmas 2006, by the way, which was the height of the Celtic Tiger in Ireland. I grab a turkey the size of an American toddler, and then I'm kind of at a loss. There really was so much left. I ended up grabbing sausage stuffing, croquette potatoes, duck fat roasters, and candied parsnips and carrots. I start to drift towards the tills, and my manager asks me what I'm doing. I think I've taken too much. There's some spending limit I haven't heard of. Instead, he's asking me why I'm wasting food and throws pork crackling and sticky toffee pudding into my basket. I get to the till, expecting this to be the big reveal where it actually ends up costing me my entire month's pay, and it costs €23. Now my only problem is that I have 16 kilos worth of food and I've arranged to meet my dad 2 kilometers away because Dundrum parking is extortion. Excuse me. There's also no point in ringing him and asking him to come closer because my dad comes home from work every day, puts his phone in the kitchen drawer, and that's where it stays until he leaves for work the next morning. Does this defeat the purpose of a mobile? Yes, it does. Anyway, I schlep this bounty all the way to where we're supposed to meet, and I see that he's literally pacing at 11 o'clock in December outside his car. He sees me and he looks like a husband waiting for his wife's operation results. When we go through the shopping bags in the boot of our Corolla, I swear I got some inkling as what it must be like to win Wimbledon and then do that thing where you climb up the stands to hug your parents. He was instantly like, Rich, this is too much. How much did you spend? The whole idea was this supposed to cost less. I showed him the receipt and we ended up driving home blasting Springsteen the whole way. So yes, Dad had to start prepping and cooking a turkey at 11:30 that night. The next day we ate like kings, or at the very least, people from Dalkey. The food was great, and the best thing was that Dad made a big deal about me providing it. Anytime someone said they liked something, he'd give me an elbow on the ribs. And by the end of the dinner, you'd sworn I'd taken the job on as some sort of Ocean's 11 style long con. This Christmas is probably going to be not as good in comparison, so it was nice to reminisce about a better one. Also, I got a Creative Zen MP3 player, which I'm still convinced is the pinnacle of music technology. Here endeth the long Twitter thread.
It's so brilliant. I feel gutted that you've never read this live, so I'm going to play you just the applause because you deserve the applause from when I did it last
Really
week.
nice.
I think this is your applause coming now, okay? Anyway, the food was great. The best thing is that Dad made a very big deal about me providing it. Anytime someone said they liked something, he'd give me an elbow in the ribs. That by the end of the dinner, I would have sworn that I'd taken the job on as some sort of Ocean's 11 style long.
See, I still think you read that with much more gravitas and charm than I'm capable of. But please do send me. I'll have that as my ringtone now, where I'll play it every time a joke doesn't land in real life. I'm just going to play that in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll tell you the one that really landed was and I really thought about it since it was that when it says a turkey the size of an American toddler, it absolutely brought the house down. And it is a really good phrase, but I was thinking afterwards, it's because that laughter was relief as much as people were sick with worry about you. That idea of like a 16-year-old carrying the family's Christmas is so intense.
When the thread kind of broke containment from like, it went in Ireland and UK for the most, and then kind of escaped into the US, and that line did get a lot of comments from Americans. Half kind of like, yeah, fair enough, and half is like, this is actually a good reference point for us. So some of them didn't appreciate that line so much.
Such a great story. I'm so thrilled that you've read it on here. I think it's going to really add luster to the Instagram. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much for having me.
I'm going to start recording so I can just fanboy at you for 5 minutes.
Well, no, please do. Let me know when the record stops and I can go back to not being very nice.